This is Pro One Theologist channel. I'm Dr. Jason W. Morrison, New South Wales, Australia. If you haven't already, please like the videos that you watch, subscribe to the channel, and most of all, leave your comments. Let's start our next teaching. And we'll carry on where we left off with this very, very cunning and misleading talk by one of the governing body members of the Jehovah's Witness business, using theology and false theology as a shop front for their business.
We must be vigilant to listen to the right voice.
Now, all this stuff about voices and everything, ladies and gentlemen, let me simplify it for you. Love your neighbour as yourself. Okay, now you can't do that as a Jehovah's Witness because people in the community are strangers, and he's saying don't listen to strangers. So before you even start, you're under the defensive. Okay, I've met some really nice Jehovah's Witness people, but the sad part is that if you don't bend and bow to their organisation, you will be estranged. And if you've got family members in the cult, they'll make you separate from them.
Our fine shepherd tells us, as our first example, these words at Matthew chapter 24, verses 45 through 47. Who really is the faithful and discreet slave whom his master appointed over his domestics to give them their food at the proper time?
Now, isn't this absolutely crazy madness? I mean, you think of all the millions and billions of preachers and organisations across the world that actually do help people outside their organisation as a Christian cause. You think of the ridiculousness of what this man's about to say in thinking that a religion that started in the very late 1800s is the only way in which Jesus was prepared to reach out to the world. It's offensive to the Jewish nation. It's offensive to the lineage of the Lord Jesus Christ. This is just a religious cult that was made up in the USA, late 1800s, that's pushing its way around thinking that it's the only channel, as it were, that Jesus uses. Now, Jeffrey Jackson, the governing body member at the Australian Royal Commission, when the Australian government was trying to get the Jehovah's Witness organisation to take account for their child sexual abuse, reaching far and beyond the thousands of children abused by members and trusted people within the organisation, of which they had a duty of care of these children, didn't do that. They treated them like objects and abused them sexually. The Australian government went after the Jehovah's Witness cult and found them to be guilty. Now, I'm going to bring a piece of footage of another governing body member that says that the Jehovah's Witnesses are not the exclusive way in which God reaches the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to do this, just want to show you, I've typed in Jeffrey Jackson lies in YouTube, and look at this. There's stacks of it. I'm going to go with the shortest one, which is this one. I'll put the link below, but just go to YouTube and type in Australian Royal Commission, in this case Jeffrey Jackson lies.
Now, does the governing body, or do the members of the governing body, do you see yourselves as modern day disciples, the modern day equivalent of Jesus' disciples?
We certainly hope to follow Jesus and be his disciples.
And do you see yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
That I think would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using. The scriptures clearly show that someone can act in harmony with God's Spirit in giving comfort and help in the congregations. But if I could just clarify a little, going back to Matthew 24, clearly Jesus said that in the last days, and Jehovah's Witnesses believe these are the last days, there would be a slave, a group of persons who would have responsibility to care for the spiritual food. So in that respect, we view ourselves as trying to fulfill that role.
So that debunks what this man's about to say here.
Happy is that slave if his master on coming finds him doing so. Truly I say to you, he will appoint him over all his belongings. We know the Master Jesus found the faithful and discreet slave spiritually feeding right-hearted ones in 1919.
Another devastating lie. Absolutely clear cut, profound lie in the form of theological abuse. 1914, 1919, all this rubbish that come out of their religion has nothing to do with what Jesus said or what the Bible says or anything about what the Jewish prophecies said would be taking place with their Messiah. This has now gone deep into the cult lies, which they all believe, and now you're looking at Satan using somebody as a ventriloquist. Okay? This is absolute blatant theological lies and abuse.
And at a future time will appoint him over all his belongings. So what's the implication? Obviously, even now, Jesus fully trusts the faithful slave.
But that's not the Jehovah's Witness organization. It's the universal people that believe in Jesus Christ.
And all of us, even individual members of the governing body, should do the same.
Should, but they don't, do they? Because they protect child. They do not report pedophiles to the authorities. They don't report sexual offenders to the authorities. They don't tell the authorities that they're shunning and breaking up families. So he can hold his hand over his heart, but that's just lies. Lies.
But what does the voice of strangers say on this subject? Don't trust the faithful slave.
No, don't, because honestly, because it's true. He just said 1919, Jesus that, Jesus this. That's lies. You can't trust lies. People that lie are dangerous. They have no regard for your personal destination or welfare in life. They're liars. They're harmful. What was Satan? The master of lies.
He will mislead you. And who often have the loudest voice promoting this false message? Apostates.
No. All the apostates are trying to do is reveal the lies of these people. Terrible, horrible lies. Filthy, rotten lies. Careless. Lying at the expense of the people in this organization, this cult.
Hebrews 13:9 labels false messages as strange teachings. Yes,
Well, these people are about as strange as you can get then, aren't they?
they are the teachings of strangers. Some examples of their strange teachings are that the faithful slave protects pedophiles.
Oh
Or-
my God. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So, No. Everybody knows that this organisation protects pedophiles. You have to go to the Australian on YouTube, Royal Commission of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Please, it's hilarious how wicked and evil it all was. How many people got into trouble out of this organisation because of this? How rude and horrible the Jehovah's Witnesses were, and these people that represent the organisation. How rude and horrible these people are. Here's one example. This is just random about shunning. Oh, the Australian authorities don't like the Jehovah's Witnesses at all.
Now, the consequence in the scenario that I put to you is that this survivor of abuse who wishes to leave the organisation is put to a choice, isn't she? She either stays in the organisation or she leaves and thereby potentially loses her whole family, or much of it, depending on how many remain in the witnesses, and her social network.
No, I think there's that other option that you missed there is by just ceasing her activity in the congregation.
Well, I'm presupposing, Mr. O'Brien, that her feeling is sufficiently intense that she wishes to disassociate from the organisation.
Yes, so then she would appreciate the implication of that.
Yes, and her friends and family would face the implication too that they would have to disassociate from her.
Yes.
It's an impossible choice, isn't it? I mean, no one, is it not right, Mr. O'Brien, should be put to the choice of remaining in an organisation which she feels is protective of her abuser and losing her family and social network.
Well, I can only be guided by what the scriptures say on that.
Well, do you accept that it's psychologically devastating and cruel?
The whole purpose of disfellowshipping or disassociation is to help the person see the benefits of associating. So a disassociated person, a disfellowshipped person, is free to come back. A disassociated person particularly, they don't have to go through a lengthy procedure to come back, whereas a disfellowshipped person has to prove their repentance suitably.
Well, it makes...
See, this is why it's a cult. This is why this is a cult. Because this is all made up. This has just been made up by this cult.
Well, it makes your organisation a captive organisation, doesn't it?
I don't follow what you mean by that.
Well, it makes it incredibly hard for someone to leave because of the huge pain, suffering, cruelty that she must face if she does leave.
I don't believe so.
Do you appreciate, Mr. O'Brien, that this point of shunning, as it's called, is the one that probably makes people the most angry around the world amongst the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses?
But if it's disassociation, again, it's a choice they make. They don't have to disassociate themselves to stop associating. They don't lose their spiritual or familial association by being inactive.
I can see you might get some support for it by the manner in which first century Christians organised themselves. But is it justified in today's world and today's morality to treat people in this way?
Well, personally, what is accepted as today's morality in many ways, I wouldn't say is acceptable to a Christian.
And you can watch all the Australian Royal Commission into the Jehovah's Witnesses child sexual abuse on YouTube. There's a channel called Jake Control. That's Jake Control. Whoops, I'll put a link to that below. You can watch all. It's a spectacle, a shameful spectacle on the part of the representatives of this evil and corrupt cult.
That slave will exploit you so they can live lives of luxury. Those are both bald-faced lies.
We'll prove it. Why don't they show us exactly how they live? Prove it. Take us inside your life, behind the scenes. Show us. Show us what you've done. Show us where all the money's going. Where does the money go that the Watchtower makes? Where's it going? Into this, broadcasting. Into all their other stuff that they're trying to do. And into the pockets of the people behind these people that are running this huge business.
Acts 20:30 says that apostates speak twisted things. They do this in order.
The problem with this organisation is you don't have to be an apostate to speak twisted things. The whole thing is twisted within itself.
In order to draw God's sheep away and make them followers of themselves.
I don't see. This is the point. I'm a very personal individual. I don't want people to. Definitely don't want people to follow me. That's for sure. In any way whatsoever. At all. What I'm trying to do is help people to come back to their senses and see that they're involved in a very dangerous, harming, psychologically harming, socially harming, I don't even think they should be allowed in the communities, organisation of no benefit whatsoever to the community at all.
Something that's twisted is bent out of shape or distorted. They speak twisted things by leaving out vital details, taking things out of context.
Have I taken anything out of context in this video, viewers? Really? I've showed you by example as best as I can, and you can take it or leave it. What's going on here?
Or in some other way, manipulating a truth into a lie or into a misleading half-truth.
Let's just have a look at something, okay? We'll go to YouTube. He mentioned Jesus, this and that, 1919. 1919, Jesus. Well, let's just do this. This is how helpful the computer is. JWs. Let's just see if we get anything here. There's a whole stack of stuff. It would probably take too long to go into. 1919, what I found really happened. Should we? Okay, and then we'll have to do another one, won't we? 1919. Here's a quick one, 5 minutes.
From the Bible?
Whoops.
Oh, okay. Well, someone has just told me about the jw.org website, and I love reading about Bible stuff and religion. I saw this thing on the website that these leaders that you have, the governing body, I guess they're called, they were appointed by Jesus in 1919.
Yep, as a whole. Yep.
Yeah, can you tell me more about like how that happened? How they knew about that he did that?
That would be a much further conversation than.
Well, I mean, can you just really? Can you just give me the main point? I mean, was it like a vision or something like that?
Well, if we can think about back to when Jesus appointed the original governing body back in the first century, like his apostles.
They were called governing body?
There wasn't a specific term.
Right,
and now that's just a term that we put.
So you can see how bent and twisted this is. I think we'll just go back. We'll go back, bear with me, to this short video here.
On May 7th, 1918, warrants were issued for the arrest of Judge Rutherford and 7 of his associates under charges of violating the 1917 Espionage Act. Despite Rutherford's tries at pacifying the courts, the judge and 7 of his associates found themselves in jail in June of 1918. Judge Rutherford and his associates were given 20-year jail sentences. By throwing Rutherford and his followers behind bars with the accusations of religious propaganda that was more harmful than a division of German soldiers ringing in the airs, Judge Howe gave Rutherford a gift beyond measure, something that affects all witnesses today. Judge Rutherford and his fellow associates could claim, with some justification, that they were victims of unfair persecution. Judge Rutherford would start pointing to his unjust treatment as the fulfillment of Bible prophecy, the affliction of God's people by Satan's wicked system, from which he and his brothers had emerged triumphant. The year of the release, 1919, would become etched in witness dogma as the year Christ Jesus definitely selected, approved, and identified a faithful and wise servant class when he began his invisible reign in 1914, when their Gentile times had ended. Remember, Russell stated that the end would come in 1914 upon Christ's return, and then that rapture would happen. 1914, as we have learned, was a main date, so Rutherford, as the new faithful servant, was able to discern that Christ did indeed return in 1914, just invisibly. In 1919, after examining all of the religions on earth, Jesus chose the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society as his one main channel, and to back that up, they had their persecution of being thrown in jail to prove it, with Jehovah having them removed from jail on March 25, 1919, so they could get on with their preaching work. What really happened, they were let out on bail. The offensive pages were removed from the finished mystery, and Rutherford was able to further his work of reorganizing Watchtower to his tastes. Coming up, the faithful men of old to come.
So you can see that Judge Rutherford, as far as I know too, he threw a coup and ran out the directors that were in place so that he could take over this organisation. And he pulled it off. He ended up he is a criminal. He was a criminal, a religious criminal. More dangerous, the judge that put him in jail said, than a squad of Nazis. That's a very heavy thing to say. And these people go on. This cult goes on. It's not Christian.
2 Peter 2:3 says, "They will greedily exploit you with counterfeit words."
Which is exactly, ladies and gentlemen, what this man's doing right now.
A counterfeit is something that's carefully designed to look like the real thing. Take, for example,
I think it's brilliant how they look, how they're actually explaining themselves, theologically explaining their theology, right, alongside 101 normal foundation Christian theology, is what he's talking about now. It's counterfeit.
Counterfeit money. It might look genuine, but it's fake and thus worthless. If we're deceived into accepting it, we'll lose money. But if we're deceived into accepting the counterfeit words of apostates, we'll lose our life.
No. No, 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 no. No, you won't. For all intensive purposes, you'll probably get your life back. You will get your life back. You'll get your family back. You'll get your normality back. It's a psychological maze of harm and abuse, theological abuse.
And apostates will give us absolutely nothing of value in exchange. Can you imagine?
That's rubbish. If you go to here, say XJWs, there's thousands of people that have come out of the organisation that are doing everything they can to try and help people that are still in this organisation. Why I left the Jehovah's Witnesses. Why did Watchtower delete the video? How does the Jehovah's Witness culture impact your mental health? Watchtower is dying, and there's thousands upon thousands of videos. There's the Australian Royal Commission again, where people are trying to help Watchtower. Here's one example.
I just realized this morning that it will be 3 years today that my mother texted me to tell me never to call, visit, or text again. And that was because I was born and raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and we had put up a little tree. We put a little twinkle lights on it. It was about less than 3 feet high, and it was next to our fireplace. So yeah, it was December 2020. My mom saw a picture of this little tree on social media, and I think most of you know that Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to celebrate Christmas. And so for us to put up that tree, it was going against, what I was raised to believe. Now keep in mind, this is all through text. My mom then went on to tell me that I had lost God's blessing, that my life would be very hard from here on out. And she texted all of this to my oldest daughter. She also told me not to text, visit, or call any of my siblings. I have 6 brothers and sisters, so her decision was for the entire family. I had always expected this kind of reaction if I did something that Jehovah's Witnesses don't agree with. This is what they do. They disown you, they shame you, they disfellowship you. I think all kids who are born and raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, they have this fear from day one that if they do something wrong, this could happen. My mom was just doing what she was told to do, what she was taught to do. So I just responded. I said I loved her so much. I told her I was always here for her. If she needed anything, to always reach out. And that was the last time we spoke. So that was December 2020. The next time I heard from her, it was actually from my brothers, letting me know that my mom was passing away. And so we called and we said goodbye. I told her I loved her again. But it's crazy that that little tree prevented my mom and I from having a relationship for the last 3 years. This is a reminder for anyone who is currently one of Jehovah's Witnesses. If you get disfellowshipped, if you get publicly reproved, if they, by they I mean elders, if they're telling you that you need to change your ways in order to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses again, I just want to remind you, if you've been disfellowshipped, you don't have to go back. Some of my older siblings were disfellowshipped or publicly reproved, or they left the religion, then went back. I just don't get it. Once you finally have your freedom, once you truly start living, why on earth would you want to go back? I liken it to being in an abusive relationship where you were treated like crap, told what you could do and when you could do it, then you split up and you have your freedom. Why on earth would you ever go back to that relationship? I know why. I know that they fear people into staying in the religion. Armageddon's coming, the last days are coming, you have to stay or else. They've been saying that for over 100 years. So I'm just putting it out there that you could just go enjoy your life, live your life, love who you want, live how you want. There is so much life to live outside the Kingdom Hall. Be free.
And there are plenty of people that are trying to help these poor cult members to see the light away from these people here. Look at this. Goodness me.
Really needing a loving shepherding visit and asking apostates to give you one? Similarly, we must be careful about believing everything presented in the media.
The funny part about this too is, as that lady said before, they're saying a visit. once these people shun each other as a result of the ways in which this religion works, you're not getting a visit off no one. There's no visit from no one. You're finished, gone. You never existed. That's how this works.
About Jehovah's organization. Remember, the media is commonly motivated by prejudice, hatred, and a desire for profit.
Well, that's what this is, isn't it? It's media. It's Jehovah's Witness media. They're doing everything they can to keep their people locked in.
False and exaggerated news reports are very common.
Would you say this is an exaggerated news report, viewers? This is a real-life story from Queensland. A Queensland man from Jehovah's Witnesses community charged with 21 counts of rape, 17 counts of sexual assault over 10 years. Let's see.
Together, we learn about skin and silliness.
We're now at police headquarters with details, Ebony, on the arrest of a senior religious figure facing 21 charges of rape.
Jehovah's Witness.
That's right, Melissa. The man was a senior member of the Jehovah's Witness community. He was arrested following a raid on his property. And some of these offences, well, they date back as far as 2008. Now, we understand that the alleged offences were committed against at least 4 victims. There are several charges, more than 30 in all. The 61-year-old has in total been charged with 21 counts of rape, 17 of sexual assault, 13 of procuring a sexual act by false pretences. Now, we understand the victims were all in their late teens or early 20s, and Andrew, police are urging anyone, if they have any more information about this, to come forward.
Thanks, Ebony.
So,
take it to the next level. Gamble responsibly.
There was another 4 men in America, in the state of Pennsylvania, where 19 young girls were sexually abused within the Jehovah's Witness organisation, and these people don't report them to the police. And the police aren't happy about it. The authorities want these people that are using this organisation as a platform to carry out their pervertedness by reaching the people that they can who come to the meetings. That's where they get the children.
For example, in one European country, many people were indignant when an emotional press report stated that a young female witness died because she refused a blood transfusion.
Well, again, that's false theology, isn't it? It's not in the Bible. It's just not there. And I think an estimated of over 50,000 people worldwide, probably more, have died from this evil, horrible doctrine. Now, if you want, you can do this. You can go JW's blood doctrine. Right? This is how simple. It all takes seconds. And you get everything you could want. Right? They're saying people don't want to help. Oh, yes, they do want to help, man. There's thousands and thousands of videos on how people have been deceived by the Jehovah's Witness blood doctrine. Okay, my sister works at the Gosford Hospital just here, and I spoke to her yesterday, and she said it's true. They will not have the blood transfusion. She said she nursed a lady, a Jehovah's Witness lady, as she died. She died. So it's not even in the Bible. Jehovah's Witnesses don't need to die. It's all here. Just put it, JW's blood doctrine, in YouTube, and you'll get all the information you can. Look, at this point, I'm going to finish this video. We're not at the end of this yet. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.